The world does not run on headlines, it runs on people who care. I'm Peter Murphy Lewis, and this is People Worth Caring About. Alongside my co-host, Jaylene Carpenter, we sit down with the unsung heroes, caregivers, healers, helpers, the ones doing the real work, even when no one is watching. These conversations are not polished, they're personal, because behind every act of care is a story worth hearing. New episodes drop regularly. Get updates at peopleworthcaringabout.com.
Hello, everyone. This is People Worth Caring About. I'm your host, Peter Murphy Lewis, here with my co-host, Jaylene Carpenter. Jaylene, say oh.
I'm going to say hello, Peter.
I'm excited because today we have a special guest. She's a unique leader. She got into her role in a unique way. She was part of the documentary series People Worth Caring About that we did with Jaylene a little over a year ago that is now on every smart TV. Jaylene calls it Roku. She's figuring it out, even though she's younger than I. Traci Haglund, administrator at Wakefield Care Center in Nebraska, and she is the star of the show of one of the most beautiful episodes from this documentary that I get the most amount of feedback from, where people cry and laugh. Traci, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Traci, tell us about your week.
No, you guys weren't supposed to bring it.
Okay.
Well, we're always pivoting in long-term care. Our auditors were supposed to come on Thursday, so that was going to be all of our fun for the week. But then the state surveyors came on Wednesday and Thursday. And of course, with state survey comes the fire marshals. And so he was here on Thursday also. And then I also had to do my annual insurance renewal on Thursday too. But I'm still here to talk about it, so we're good.
What did you do before Wednesday and Thursday?
Oh, I took my kids to the pool. Just prepped for auditors, I think. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you shared a story of covering the night shift.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yep. I ended up covering half a night shift on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So surveyors showed up. I slept for about an hour and a half, and I showed up and said, "Hey, friends, how are we doing?" And it's going okay. So we're fine.
Jaylene, I feel like the follow-up question for everything around Traci could be, what were you doing before? Because if you watch the documentary and you see right at the beginning, Traci, what were you doing before you were administrator?
And I was like, I said, I was a nursing services manager at a critical access hospital. We delivered like over 110 babies a year, had busy ER, a good amount of outpatient surgeries, so different kind of management. But
I want to know your like when you transitioned from acute to long-term care, what were some of the comments made? What were some of the did people think, what are you doing?
yeah, people always know that I have a huge heart on me everywhere I go. So I don't know. I don't think they're like that surprised for me just to jump in and take on a task. I think it was like later and they're like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love it. Like, this is great. Like, my staff are great. I'm taking care of residents that I've grown up with my whole entire life in my community and making other new friends that aren't from Wakefield." So I think they're like, "You can do anything you put your mind to." And it's kind of what we've been doing.
Can we back up a little bit? Because even in the docuseries, we highlight Wakefield and some of your residents, but we don't really talk about where Wakefield is, how big it is, the type of community that it is. Tell us a little bit about, what is Wakefield and your facility.
Wakefield is a very diverse community. We're about 1,600 people. We have our factory, our business is called Michael Foods. So it's has chickens, egg byproducts like potatoes and all that stuff. That's what keeps your small town alive. So they're like the biggest employer. We're probably the second biggest employer, being the nursing home in town. And then we're also the baseball capital of Nebraska. That's very
I love
important.
it.
Yeah.
And
It's a great
we're
community.
Northeast.
Nebraska.
Okay.
Yep. So we're about a half an hour from Sioux City, which is Iowa. or like 10 miles from like Wayne State College, half an hour from Norfolk.
So people who aren't familiar with Nebraska, a lot of people, claim that they understand what rural means, but I always like to define rural as how far from a Walmart you are, and then even better, how far from a Target are you?
About 30 miles from both.
Okay, so like in the scheme of rural, you're not like crazy rural.
No, I'm like living the high life. I got Dollar General a couple blocks away for quick emergency needs. Otherwise, it's not a big deal to drive to Target or Walmart.
I love it. Tell me more about your facility. Tell me about like who you serve, how many residents, your staff.
Well, we just had our 50th anniversary last year when you guys were here, so we're now 51. We are a 40-bed skilled nursing facility. We have 19 assisted living. And there's also like 5 independent apartments because there used to be like an old hospital that like our community hospital was attached. So now those are independent apartments and they can kind of pick and choose what they want to do. They kind of really live the best life. They're not regulated. They're going to come do activities, eat the food, and come get Whirlpool. So they have it made.
I love it.
Traci, you sent us an email this week that somebody important in your life, your family, our greater Nebraska community has gone. Tell us how your team. Tell us how it was, what happened, and how your team's handling it.
Whoa, deep breath. Our friend Myrna, she made her way to heaven this week. Just this word's supposed to make me cry. I'm not going to.
I'll give you some time to think about your next words. For anyone listening who doesn't know who Myrna is, she is one of the 2 or 3 most memorable residents in our docu-series. And she was, I think she was, if she wasn't the president
Yes.
of your community, she had the personality to be, the president of our country. Jaylene shared with me off camera about 2 weeks ago when I was with her in Nebraska. She said, "Peter, I remember the very first time I saw the scene where, Myrna fed you some cake." I'm like, "I don't know if we can show that." And then she goes, "Yep, we got to show it. Who cares?"
Oh, the best.
What was your reaction?
I just loved it. I was like, what, like an organic moment. And honestly, yes, you were a visitor. She would have done that to everybody. She is just the best lady ever. I sent a text to like one of her granddaughters. I'm like, you know what I love best about your grandma? Like, she treated me like I was her granddaughter, not that I was like the administrator of the facility. When my kids were at the nursing home and acting kind of crazy, she would be like, "They're just kids. Let them be. Your kids are wonderful." I'm like, "Thank you." And, like you need to hear that from people sometimes, but she took care of everybody. Like she made sure her table mates were well taken care of, that everybody at resident council was heard, that new residents were greeted. She just such an amazing lady. And I don't know if we told you, she used to run a bar in like a smaller town called Coleridge. And she's about like 5'1", 5'2", not a big lady.
Tiny.
And she would always tell stories about how she would just kick out these drunk guys. And she wasn't putting up with anything. And she was just, like a little pistol through the end. And she just advocated for everybody. Just the best.
I love it. And I think this is, the moment with Myrna in the series is just so, everything about it was just touching. But to hear you talk about how much love there was for Myrna, and that's the story, Peter, I think you and I were trying to tell, was there's so much life and so much purpose. And you just talked about all the things that she did. And I hear how much purpose you gave her in life, and that the fact that she lived with you in a nursing home really wasn't the factor, right? Like she still had a lot of purpose.
Yes. Yeah. The nursing home is like a place to live, but not, I don't know. That's like hindsight when like you're in a community like this, everybody is just, I don't want to say family because it's cliche, but really when you get to like taking care of each other, those dietary people, they know what they do or don't like when it comes to a meal, or they know that they need help cutting up their meat if it's like a roast versus turkey. Like it's just so interesting, like this minute detail that everybody knows about each other to help make sure everybody has a good day.
One of
It's
the
super on
one of the
school.
stories about Myrna, and I don't think you probably have heard this, Tracy, is Jaylene and I were honored and privileged to present People Worth Caring About at an important convention a couple months ago. And had a limited amount of time to explain what the concept was. And one of the clips that Jaylene and her team chose was the clip with Myrna. And it was working, I think it was it with Mary Jo?
Yep.
Oh, when they did restorative.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the reason they chose it, and I think that they were right on, spot on, is that it shows the unique relationship that caregivers receive. That it's a win-win relationship, and Myrna is as an exception as a human being, where she's not an exception, that it's more regular than people would think. Is the resident and becomes much more than a job for the caregivers. It becomes a family member, and it becomes a friend. It becomes somebody who's sharing wisdom with you every single day. And she showed that in the documentary, so that was really, really special. And yeah, I'm glad, even though that your family's lost her, um, your community in Wakefield and her family has something visual to show her legacy, because she is important, beyond just Wakefield. We showed her in Naples, Florida at a convention.
Yeah. Just worldwide.
Tell me, what has the impact been like after we launched the docuseries? Has it had an impact in your community, at your facility?
I feel like I was trying to prep myself for this. I kind of laughed because people want their kids to be working here. I do not have enough jobs for the kids that want to come work here, which is so.
That
And
is
then people
amazing.
that are planning their retirements are like, I want to come fold laundry for you. I'm like, have a job, but maybe I will keep you in mind, if we need help on the weekend and stuff. So I even had like a teacher planning her retirement. She's like, no, I know eventually I'm gonna have to get out of teaching, but can I be a CNA? I talked to them about it, and I talked to them about the hard parts of the job, and and I was like, honestly, I feel like you could be a CNA. She's like, I think I might take a class. She's like, it's gonna be in the next couple of years. I was like, okay, just let me know when you want to do it. She's like, at some point, I'm gonna get out of teaching, and I need what's gonna be my next thing to do, because she's never not done anything. So I think I have a future CNA retired teacher coming, and she'll probably be in her late 50s, because she's put in all of her years teaching and stuff. So it's very entertaining, the conversations that you have about the excitement to come and work here and to be a part of this community.
Wow, I could have not expected 20% of that answer.
Yeah, it's very funny. The random texts I get from friends and stuff, and there'll be people that don't live in Nebraska, and they're like, oh my gosh, we just saw you. Or my dad's cousins twice removed, or sending me Facebook messages that they saw the video and that it's so awesome. And it's neat. Just
Dylan,
something I never thought I'd
did you
be a
have any
part of.
idea that it was helping with staffing? That was kind of
No,
the
no, I
starting point
didn't.
of the dream 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, that
No,
is, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to hear that. Yeah. And I don't want to take away from that awesomeness, but Tracy, I think we haven't hit on some of the most important parts of you outside of the fact that you run an amazing community and facility. You're a mom of 4. Yeah?
Yeah.
4. So tell us a little bit about you, and tell me, for the listening audience that don't know, Tracy is on our Healthcare Association board. I'd love for you to tell a story of the multiple babies you've brought to the board meetings.
Well, I had 2 kids before I came to this job, and then we needed to have 2 more because, I'm not busy enough. But let's see, I have a 9-month-old baby next week, and then a soon-to-be 3-year-old, and then a 7 and a 9-year-old. And we're busy. My kids love to come up here for ice cream, but they also like to come up and talk to the residents and read them stories or play games. All of our kids here beg for the game Whack-A-Mole. So if you guys remember that, you stick your head up in a hole and they hit you with the butt noodle. The kids are the ones that beg for the residents to come and hit them with noodles. It's very fun. Everybody laughs until they cry. But the kids are asking for it probably every month if they could. But we limit it to quarterly.
Oh, I love that. So you have a grid that they just randomly pop their heads up and they whack them with pool noodles?
Our activity instructor, her husband he used to be on our board, but then she always signs him up to do stuff. And so he like made like a big table out of like 2x4s, and they cut like cardboard, like big piece of cardboard, and put it together.
Tracy, I have a great idea for the next fundraiser charity event for Nebraska Healthcare Association. We're going to take that
What is that?
table and we're going to do highest bid gets to hit Jaylene with noodles.
Whack-a-mole.
Oh,
Whack a
that would be
Whack a Jaylene.
There's other people we should probably be let whacking. But maybe we could include you, Jaylene. I don't want you to be left out.
Oh no, Peter will be at conference. I think we could do it with him too.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, Chris Alvin for Care Pack. I mean, we could
I
do
love
big
it.
things. Get this whack-a-mole.
And so we've
Tracy-
had, oh, go ahead, Peter.
Tracy, what's the funniest question your kids have asked about coming into a nursing home?
Funniest?
Like my son asked me 6 months ago if it was hard to find a wife. Trying to think of what else. Have you got any cute
I don't think
3-year-old?
there's been anything funny. Like, even when I was in the hospital, like, like my clinic and hospital were like in the same place. So if they needed to come for a well child visit, like they hung out in my office. Like, I think when Kellen was little, we had I have a picture of him like at a baby gate, like looking out the office window, like trying to find somebody to come get him to play. So like being in a medical environment is nothing where they're like, like have like funny questions. But I mean, I think explaining dementia and how dementia is different has maybe been some of our tougher conversations. Especially with like Kellen being older. He's 9, very inquisitive, also thinks he knows everything. So just trying to explain to him how everybody's brains are different and how they can't necessarily control, how things come out and stuff. So it's been unique. He did take like a little bit of a break after a lady yelled at him in Vietnamese, but but I don't think she yelled at him. She was just very excited that he was there, and she was excited. When she gets excited, she gets really loud, and he was like, but I'm just saying we had to talk about it, and he's fine, and he's back whenever we get him here, and it's just another day.
I mean,
But
but you hit
adapts just like everybody adapts. So
you hit the nail on the head of a difficult conversation. I mean, we have a hard time explaining dementia to families, let alone to kids. So that's fascinating.
yeah, but they do really well. I think the more kids are around it, and the more kids are with their grandparents, all those things are so important. Understand life and compassion and
Go ahead, Peter.
You were gonna let the awkward silence sit until it was my turn.
we'll do it.
Tracy, tell me about. I want to talk about state associations. There are people who are not as active as you, not as active as Nebraska. Why do you give time to be on the board? What do you get back for being a member?
Well, I started getting involved, or I was recommended by one of my peers, like, hey, you need to get on the board, or like make sure that you're involved, just because it will help you with like the learning curve. And when I came here, I didn't really know how to lead 90 to 100 employees. I knew about emergency preparedness, and we were in the middle of a pandemic, so I had that covered. And the rest I needed to figure out. And so that's where I made sure I was like on the reimbursement committee and the regulatory like survey type stuff, just so I can learn and kind of try to get ahead of the ball as much as I can. But also just then being on the board, you kind of just see the bigger picture of how the Healthcare Association supports us individually as facilities, and then how we need to work together to preserve what we got going, because Nebraska really has a good thing going. When I did Future Leaders, listened to other like nursing home administrators throughout the United States, they definitely don't have what we have here in Nebraska, like our support system. And from like Heath to Jaylene, that transition was amazing. So like, I don't know what I would do without the support of Nebraska Healthcare Association, and I probably want to be successful as I am without them.
I like how you.
He was amazing.
I like how you explained that it was almost like leveling up, or it was shortening the learning curve. I've done something similar when I got into long-term care. I'd never worked for a company that sold software, so I signed up for a consultancy thing where I just had access to sales software marketers and salespeople, and just every single day I was talking to them. It's not the same as being on the board because I wasn't making a difference like you. What is where I'm going with that question is, you have your hand in everything, right? Like if you could, I think you told us
I
on
would.
Tuesday night you worked a shift. So you're a mom, you're board, you're in compliance, you're in regulatory, you're in direct care. What is the area that you feel weakest at, and how do you cover your weakness? How do you find somebody to support you?
Well, that's the easiest question. It's financials. When I started, the old administrator, he's like, you need a class in accounting. I'm like, not sure I'm going to have time for it. So I still bring it up, like, I still haven't taken that class. But with my business office manager, my accounts, like payables and receivables ladies, like we have a very good team to make sure those ducks are in a row, and then just staying on top of what's going on in reimbursement and how to plan for our future, and just be thinking of ways to preserve what we have. I'm so scared about the financial part of this world. I don't know if I can say it like that, but it's a little scary. I'm glad that we're in the position that we are in personally, but the future of like where are we going to be at in 20 years when we're ready to retire is, I don't know, might get kind of scary. But
Well, in
we'll find a way.
Nebraska, you have a reason. We've had a lot of rural closures, and so when you help me unpack that a little bit, Traci, of scared. Like, are you scared for the survival of our industry or access? What are you most what
All of it. I feel like right now, when we're preparing for a construction plan, which we can talk about later, or like a remodel. But when we get to 35 residents, like all of a sudden, I can't just admit whoever needs to come in. Like you have to be very strategic. Like I need to have a Medicare bed open, or maybe somebody in your community is battling some things. Maybe you have to keep like a respite type bed available. But when things get tight, you don't have that room to flex your senses to meet like the needs of your community. So that in itself for me, I feel like with the communities closing, which it's okay that some close, but we still need to be able to give high quality care. So I can't just accept everybody and still give like the level of care that I want. Well, I'm a little crazy too. I guess you guys should know that. But so just the access of beds is there. I really worry about our rural Nebraska, like out in Bassett, Mullen. I mean, they're already driving like 60, 92 hours to go to a doctor. I worry about those guys a lot. We're like more urbanish rural than other places. And then just financially, like with Medicaid, I don't know, we're working towards having a structure that is not so up, down, up, down. We want it to be predictable for the simplest way to say it. And right now things aren't predictable.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we can't, there's always things changing that plan too. But if we can't figure something out, it just makes the uncertainty. I don't know, it just increases it. I don't like that. I like a solid.
Jillian, how do you manage the bad news, right? As president and CEO of Nebraska Healthcare Association, Traci might be the second person to hear the bad news coming your way from politics or regulation or compliance or financials. You're the first. How do you process that as a human, as a professional?
Well, I am a pretty much an optimist of all things, and
You have to
be. I probably approach it always trying to find the positive. And I think a couple of things. I always look at things in our industry as we cannot overreact in the short term, because what we are looking for success in the long term. And so we might have short-term hurdles, but we cannot absorb our energy there. We have to keep looking forward. And so like Traci, like what you said of having predictable reimbursement that isn't, fluctuating. it's hard when you're trying to talk policy and talk to legislatures and really advocate and try to explain to them that we run a business where we are going to take care of 35 people this month, and I'm going to take care of 35 people next month, but I might get paid a completely different amount next month. And how do you plan? How do you run a sustainable business when that's the model? So I probably don't ever look at anything as like bad news. I probably look at it as, well, how is this an opportunity for us to leverage what we need to get done for our space?
You are an optimist.
I
You
am.
have to be.
Anybody,
I'm so, I
right,
feel like
Tracy?
we could do this. Let's go.
I think that's everybody in long-term care, don't you, Tracy? That
If you want to be successful,
yeah, you can't see it as negative because you have to only see it as opportunity. Even when, Tracy, you know, like any event that happens in a facility, you do a root cause analysis, and you don't say, oh well, that happened. So
I remember 4 years ago, must have been my first year working in long-term care, somebody used that concept, root cause analysis. I had no idea what it was. And you know me, Jaylene, when I don't know, I just ask, what is it? And I look stupid and I'm fine. I remember it was just like going around the industry, root cause analysis. I felt like everyone was using that as a buzzword. Can you give me a 30-second or 45-second definition?
Tracy, you're the nerd. I
love-
guarantee your definition is
love
better than
this.
mine.
Well, I think Peter's method of going like, why are we doing that? That is actually a lean concept in itself, is asking the 5 whys, which is by far the easiest thing. But root cause analysis, basically you try to find like what really happened here in this fall. Like a lot of times when they write down everything that will happen into a fall, they don't ever like, you fill out the paperwork, you give your homework in, but you don't take the time to like really understand the homework, to understand like, well, what was the root cause of like this fall? Maybe it was that their glasses got taken off when they shouldn't have, and then they decided to get up and walk to the hallway to ask for help, and they couldn't find their call light. It's amazing when you do root cause analysis, when you step back and look at all the answers that they provide you, to actually find like that minute thing that really was like the root cause of that fall.
Did you do that in acute as well?
Yep,
Okay.
we would do it for, maybe there's process errors, like order errors, like processing, like pharmacy stuff, or falls is an easy thing for all healthcare type things. But I worked in quality for like a hot second, and, we just, having standard work, making sure everybody does their work like the same way is something that I have really tried to push around here, because then the residents know what to expect, the families know what to expect, and then you guys also know what to expect of each other. And that's just a really good way to like show respect for your coworkers and for your residents that you're caring for and their families.
Julie, not all of our listeners know that you were a caregiver as well, right? You're administrator. You didn't just come through the ranks to be an executive and dream for this job. You're in this because you love the industry. So my next question is for the 2 moms in the room. How do you use root cause analysis when you go home and you're being a mom?
I won't get upset right away. I don't do it here. I'm not going to waste a bunch of energy getting upset about something. Like my husband might come in and be like, I'm like, first
Let's
of all,
go
it's
through
like,
the 5 whys.
kind of, but I won't go through the 5 whys with him. I just let it dissolve. And then I say, okay, just for FYI, like, this is what the real problem was. But Eric has caught on, because now he will catch me. I see him doing it with like the older boys fighting. I'm like, this is what's actually going on. I said, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would echo that completely. Like, it's, you just don't I don't ever, well, number one, I usually don't believe like what's in front of me. Like we ended up here for a different
Big
reason,
value.
right? Like there might be a hole in the wall, but there's like what led to the hole in the wall was probably farther back than just the fact that they went through the wall. So yeah. Can I hijack, Peter? Am I
Go for it.
good to take over?
Mhm.
Being in long-term care, I think every administrator, anybody who's worked in this industry can easily tell you about the craziest thing that's ever happened in your facility, or the funniest thing, or Like just the most awesome thing. So do you have one off on the top of your head, and if not, I'll tell you a couple, like one of my favorites. Is that okay?
Like, yeah,
So
you go first.
okay, so I once had a resident. They conspired during bingo. There was a resident who missed his girlfriend in South Dakota, and he partnered with another resident to cause a distraction. So she spilt coffee everywhere. And while we were attending to the spilt coffee, he slipped out the side door and found a truck that had its keys in it. And somebody simultaneously happened to call me and say, I think there's a resident in the parking lot. By the time I got to the parking lot, the resident had backed the truck up and was driving, and I had to run and open the truck door, like as it's driving away, and be like, what are we doing? So, stories like that.
That's a good story.
Excellent.
Good thing you're a runner.
Yeah.
Right. So the truck reminds me of a story. I was coming in to help teach some CNA classes, like on a Friday morning, and I just had these. They're like, "Did you see this pickup in the parking lot?" And I didn't park in that parking lot, so I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I got the CNA started, and then I went and like did a walk around, checking the parking lot, and here I had this red pickup of one of my assisted living residents, like pulled up on the grass. I'm like, "What is going on?" But it was like 6:07, so I wasn't gonna go wake him up yet. And he had just transitioned to assisted living, was not happy about being in assisted living. So I was like, oh, okay, let's go check the cameras. Let's see what happens. Because like it had also like rained. It was kind of icy the night before. Like, so was it a hit and run? Like, like is this like a police report type of thing? Like, what happened? So I'm watching the cameras, and he came home that evening, parked his pickup, and all of a sudden it goes run and went over the curb and up by this tree. But I was like, okay, was that intentional, not intentional? You still couldn't tell yet. And then he got out. He looked at the pickup, was like, walked inside. So he was fine. There's no reason to call the police. So then at breakfast, I kind of walked over there. I said, hey, I noticed your parking job. And he goes, oh, I knew you would be here. But I was like, well, why did you park like that? And he just said, well, there was a storm coming through, and I thought if I parked closer to the tree, I wouldn't get any hail on my pickup. And I was like, oh. And then he stops me, said, now, Tracy, don't you be going to tell my nieces about this. He said, don't be telling the girls. But they're like my mom's best friend and her cousin or her sister who lives in Las Vegas. So he's like, don't you be calling them. I'm like, nope, not going to tell a soul. I had already told one of them because I like texted the picture. I'm like, hey, I don't know what happened here, but there's got to be a story. So he was fine. He was just protecting his pickup. No grass was harmed, but it just had me cracking up.
I love it. There's so many, like every day it feels like, yeah. We talked about root cause analysis, Peter. So my root cause analysis, and Tracy, I'm sure you do this, with falls, like you have to include all disciplines. Like you think about when there's a fall that you talk to the nurse aides and you talk to the nurses. We had a resident who was falling every single night, like same time, every night. And, we were talking to everybody, like trying to root cause. And it took us so she's falling at night. So we've been talking to everybody at night. Well, we ended up asking the whole neighborhood, housekeeping, dietary, everybody the next morning. This is after like 4 days in a row of falls. And the housekeeper chimed up and she's like, well, do you think it's because her daughter has been bringing her those mini bottles of wine? And we're like, she had what? She's like, well, yeah, I've been, when I take out the trash every day, there's a couple bottles of the wine in there. And we're like, okay, well, now figured it out.
That you can't make up. I say, you just have to smile and say, okay, well, we're going to do it differently next time.
That's the red wine root cause analysis.
It is. But anyway, Traci, you are just such an inspiring leader to me, and you have the best attitude always. How do you keep it going between 4 kids at home, a 24/7 job? How do you stay so upbeat?
That's a hard question this week. Sometimes I just have to make sure I take time for myself. So starting something really small, I used to like never make my hair appointments. I'd always push them off or whatever. So I started getting my nails done. And so I have to go every 3 weeks. And honestly, that's something like super small that I've done since November. And it has something about having my nails done has just been keeping me floating, being a mom of 4 and like rocking and rolling at work and home. But you have to take time to do like those small things, or you have to give work a timeout and take your kids to the pool and invest in that. Or if work's not fun, you take a timeout from that not fun and you go talk to a resident, and your perspective gets back on track and you're ready to go again. I don't know. That's what I do.
Traci, do you have a piece of advice that you've heard most in your life, or a proverb or a saying, maybe from your mom or your dad or your grandma? And then I'll tell you mine as I thank you for joining us. My mom's, and she's probably said this to me 200 times in my life, was the only thing you can control in your life, Peter, is your attitude. And why I thought of this question leads into my thank you, because you have such an amazing attitude. When I hear my mom, it makes me want to tear up on this Friday afternoon. When I hear that right now in my head from my mom, you line up with that. Thank you so much for, sharing your energy on our documentary, being a part of why long-term care is special, stealing people from acute care. You're a lesson learned of root cause analysis and how we can do this and why. And thank you so much. Now tell us what saying has influenced you and you've heard so much in your life.
When I was in nursing school, one of the nurses, she was a non-traditional student, but she was just talking about life and like raising kids and, she just talked about like, something might make you really upset right now. But is it going to matter in a year? Is it going to matter in 5 years? Like, it's not. So don't like waste your energy. So we've hit on that a couple different times, but that's honestly something that really carries me through every single day. And like what I do, like it can frustrate you, make you mad, but then you have to take a step back. Like, with your employees, like how can you educate them? How can you look at the process to make it make sense? Because sometimes I might come up with a great idea, but it's really not a great idea. You need the employees like feedback to make it better. But sorry, I've changed the answer and the question here on you.
It was good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Traci. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in August at the convention.
I'll be there. Yep. See you guys later.
That's a wrap on People Worth Caring About, born from the documentary Built to Keep the Stories Going. Shout out to Nebraska Healthcare Association and Jaylene Carpenter for helping launch it, and to Ohio and New Mexico for making future seasons real. Watch the docuseries online or at peopleworthcaringabout.com. And if this episode meant something to you, leave a review. It matters. Take care of yourself and the people worth caring about.